Hello and welcome back to another Craig and Dave Unscripted. So we have another special guest with us today, so going to bring them straight on. Welcome, Sasha. Hello, Sasha. Thank you for joining us. Sasha is from Coding Rooms, and if you've been following our Twitter, you'll know that Dave did a little live Coding Rooms session, I think a few weeks ago now. But for people who haven't heard of Coding Rooms, Sasha, in just sort of a few sentences, what is Coding Rooms?
Sure thing. So Coding Rooms started out as a platform for computer science educators to be able to see their students coding in real time. Had a really simple idea. Now we offer a live classroom where you can watch your students code in real time, and then also do auto-graded assignments.
Perfect. There you go. You see, Dave, why do you never give explanations like that? That would have taken you 5 minutes to say what Sasha just said in 3 lines.
Why take 10 words when you can take 100?
Oh, wow. Okay, so quick here, there's no disclaimer needed here, right? We're not paid or sponsored to do this. I mean, I actually, until relatively recently, hands up, I'd not heard of Coding Rooms, and I don't use it in my classroom. Although since Dave's been on it, and since I've had a little look, I might very well go ahead and use it myself. This is excellent product. We are showing this to you because with everything we do, we really just want to help students learn. We want to help teachers teach. And there's a variety of excellent tools out there, both free and paid. This is one we've become aware of. We know lots of teachers are raving about it. So, it's a great opportunity to show you. But yeah, there's no kind of nefarious sponsorship going on here at all. It really is, no disclaimer needed. Okay, so we're obviously going to get into demoing the product. It'd be nice to actually show it. But just tell us a little bit, Sasha, before we get into that. Who are the people behind Coding Rooms then? I mean, you alluded to a little bit. What's the backstory?
Yeah, sure thing. So Coding Rooms is the brainchild of 3 co-founders, but originally it started as an online IDE I was building in high school when I was taking AP Computer Science. And I was really interested in how we could get certain desktop IDE features and collaboration into the browser, which circa 2015 was like in various different states. And since then, it over time went through various iterations as a side project, and then became a company. And we didn't really know when we first sort of got funding for Coding Rooms, we didn't really have an idea of what the application would be. We were just really excited about IDEs. And then I had all these experiences teaching people in high school, like teaching my friends about computer science and doing Java workshops and that sort of thing. And I was always really frustrated that for me, teaching felt like screaming into the void. Like I just had no idea what people were doing. And when we were actually getting started with Coding Rooms, it was sort of right around the beginning of COVID, and there were a lot of classrooms moving to online. And I hacked together basically a prototype of our IDE in this real-time dashboard where teachers could see what every student in their class was actually up to just by sort of scrolling through a list. And that was how Coding Rooms got started.
So it's very much like the software that teachers might have in UK schools at the moment, where they can, from their teacher computer, they can control all the workstations that the students are currently using, and they can look at their screens and they can take control of them and do that sort of thing. So it's very much that kind of software, but it's specifically for programming. And we'll have a look at some of the features in a moment. But as a programmer myself, Sasha, I got to be honest, I look at it and I think, wow, this is a serious piece of code in this product. And it looks really complicated to actually code. And you've done some of the code behind this. I'm really impressed. Is it difficult to code this thing?
Yeah, and so I don't think we could have done it if we started working on it when we released it. There were a lot of different iterations that we went through when this ID was just a side project, where we tackled different approaches to a number of different problems. And then I think also browser performance relatively recently caught up to a place where coding rooms is actually possible. I don't think a few years ago, now coding room supports, in some cases, up to 200 students at a time in a live classroom. Yeah, and so streaming all of that in real time, like being able to go through it without the entire teacher computer getting really slow and laggy is non-trivial. And so I think that we're also kind of aided by that. And oddly enough, some of the harder parts might not be as obvious from the front end. So one of the hardest things naturally is running all the student code, making sure versions are configured properly for over a dozen different languages, making sure that's fast and responsive, even if student wants to delete the entire RMRF / type of stuff, and making sure that they can safely recover from that, and that's a safe environment for students there. And then things like auto grading, making sure that that's set up correctly for all the different languages. Some of the more interesting problems.
Not even to mention the fact that the students in the UK, especially at A level, so 17 and 18, they have to do a computing project, and typically they write a computing project for a single platform or device. But the ones that get into web applications, it's making them realize, so you've made this web application, but you're specifically making it using Chrome, using this particular version, because that's what you've designed it in. If this was a commercial product, you have no idea what web browser someone's using. You have no idea what version you're using. You have no idea what plugins they're using. So we're getting off the point a bit here, but yeah, I appreciate what it's like developing a product that's as feature rich as yours, that's purely delivered through a web browser, and then obviously having no control over which web browser and version people are using. It's not a simple thing. So, fair play to you. Right, we're in danger of waffling on. I do want to touch on one thing. So if I just show the front of your website a second, tell us, Sasha, how do you give teachers superpowers? So I love this. It's a really nice marketing catchphrase, and giving teachers superpowers. But what are you meaning behind that?
So what I had, and this is literally the V1 of what I had in mind for the Coding Rooms website. This hasn't changed if you go through, the whole archive for it. And the initial idea behind it was kind of like X-ray vision for a live remote class. And I thought that was a superpower, and that's what we're giving to computer science educators. And so for me, that was, I don't want to say like an obvious one, but it came really quickly.
And before we get into the actual products, we'll have a look at it in a second. The other thing I find really impressive is the number of languages that you're actually supporting. Now, let me get this right. The students are coding in their web browser effectively, but they can be coding in Python. They can be coding in C. Jump in and tell me if I'm right or wrong here. C, C#, C++.
Yeah, all of the above. There's actually a pretty full language list somewhere towards the bottom of the website. But yeah, pretty much everything. I think some of the more interesting, more recent sort of use cases have been with, I think it was just right above there, the last feature block right here. So
yes,
here we go.
Yeah,
look at that. C, C#, C++, Clojure, Go, Haskell, which is great for AQA, HTML, CSS, JS, Java, JavaScript, Pascal. The list goes on. And so a student can code in any of those languages inside your product in the browser. They don't need a separate compiler or special installations of any of this software. They can then run that code. It's not going to pop out and appear somewhere else where a teacher can't see it in an extra window. It's all within product. Teacher can then see and interact with a running executable of that program in real time. And crucially, the students and the teachers can be anywhere in the world. So you could be one of my coding students right now on the other side of the world, which you are, incidentally, on the other side of the world at the moment to us. You can be coding, I can be teaching you, you're writing your code in the browser, you haven't had to install any special software, anything like that. You can run your program and I can interact with your running program in real time with you. That has got to be impressive. I've never seen anything like that before. That's right, isn't it?
Yep, 100%. And I think for me, the part that makes it really exciting for education is just, I think it's really important to figure out how to scale teachers, like how to scale the ability for a single educator to give as close as a one-on-one experience to as many students as possible. And that's what Coding Rooms is all about. So, when we think about developing different features and stuff, the questions we always ask ourselves are like, does this make teachers more effective? Does this save teachers time? Is this easy to use for teachers?
That's really, sorry to jump in, that's really nice to hear, actually, because one thing Dave and I have spouted on about quite a lot in previous videos, and we're quite well known for, is there's lots of education resource providers out there, and they all do a great job, but Dave and I are very keen about thinking we're not just chucking out resources simply to make some money. It's like, why are we doing this? What's the learning journey? How will this help the students? How will this help the teachers? If what we're selling isn't helping a teacher teach and helping a student learn, then why are we putting the effort into it? So it's just, you were naturally talking there, but it's just nice to hear as well that everything you're doing and the journey you're going on with Coding Rooms is underpinned by how will this help teachers? How will this help the students? And it's nice to hear that, because that's not always the case with a commercial company. But obviously, that was initially why you got into it, and that's really quite evident. So, yeah, so I jumped in there, but it's nice to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we've stuck to it, and I think we've gotten better at doing it as well, just because we talk to more teachers. And recently, if we can advertise here, launched a little campaign with all of our users. And I think, it's even in my email signature and stuff. You can just schedule a 30-minute call with me to give us product feedback. If you're a teacher or you played with Coding Rooms, you're interested in using Coding Rooms. And so I think I block out 4 or 6 hours a week just for that every week. And that's on a rolling basis.
That's excellent. So if we've got teachers watching this and thinking, well, it looks interesting, but I really need more because it's hard to see on a little video clip exactly what's going on here, they can get in touch, and we'll tell them how that you can get in touch with you a little bit later. But get in touch with you, and you can do demos with teachers at school, which is excellent. But of course, we'll have a look at the product now. But it's more than what I've already described and what you've described, isn't it? Because the other thing that you can do with this is you can plug in assignments and coding challenges. And by the way, this will work very well with Craig and Dave's time resources. We'll talk about that maybe later or another time. But you can plug in assignments into Coding Rooms so that students don't just have a blank coding window and you can monitor their code. It's so much richer than that. You can set them assignments and you can see their progress through those assignments on a journey, and it keeps the marks for those assignments and feedback for those assignments and all that good stuff going along too. So a really impressive product. Let's have a look at it.
Yes, right. And hands up, everyone here. So first live demo of a product, and Dave and I are going to act as students. So good luck here, Dave. Last time you were a student. And if this all goes disastrous, I apologise, Sasha. We might not be the best students in the world, but it is unscripted. Right. So I'm going to put that full screen, I think. And
awesome.
Yeah, so talk us through what people are seeing here.
Sure. So we're in the Coding Rooms live classroom environment right now. And this is mainly for synchronous learning. And by synchronous, I mean, you're an instructor, you're delivering a lesson, and I have it configured now without integrated video conferencing. But if you're teaching your students remotely, we also have a fully featured video conferencing that just becomes part of the classroom, becomes like another section that students can view. And the neat thing about Coding Rooms is I can see all my students who are currently in class. So I see Dave is active. Actually, I think Craig might have recently left my classroom, and when they were last active and when they ran code. and this updates in real time. And here I have my presentation. So the presentation, you can enable it for students to interact with you during class as well, or you can just do this as a one-to-many. So you can type code in the presentation, and then your students will see it. And then also, I believe, Craig or Dave, if you'd like to like highlight a piece of code, then I would also see that.
I'm going to do I'll do some live coding now if you want to switch it so that you're watching what I'm doing.
Sure thing. So I think I see that looked up here.
Yeah, so here are the student workspaces, and my code window's on the left and Craig's code window's on the right. And I'm literally going to code in real time here. And Sasha, who's on the other side of the world, is going to be able to see what I'm doing. So this is about importing the libraries I want to use. This bit down here is setting the colors and my screen width to 500. I don't think that's right. I'm going to change that, I think, to 700. There we go. And I'm going to give my my code a run and see what happens here.
And I can maximize your code as the instructor, so I can, in case you're worried about the small windows, for example. And as Craig and Dave were typing, you can see that their last active time updated, and that's based off whether or not they're actually typing in their workspaces. So if your students are just out doing something else, then when you look through for attendance, for example, it will be obvious which students were in and which ones weren't.
I tell you what, little things like that are excellent. I'm probably going to keep jumping in. I mean, not all classrooms have all the computer screens facing the front of the class. I've taught in classrooms where all the computer screens are back. So unless you're constantly walking around the room checking, it's very easy for students to wander off and do something else, for example, watch a YouTube video when they should be coding. So that kind of instant display, like Dave, what have you been doing for the last 5 minutes? Because you've not been in your code window.
Playing Pong. Playing Pong.
Yep. And one neat thing, for example, Dave, if you drop that parenthesis right there, for example, just creating like a syntax error, and if you click Run on your workspace, then I immediately see that you have an error. And so if you have students who are having pretty consistent errors, or they're not running their code, for example, I see you ran twice, but you have one recent error. It's a really easy way to prioritize which students you want to work with.
So let's get this right, because I think this is going to be really, really valuable for teachers to understand what we're doing here. So I'm working on a piece of code simultaneously to Craig and to 198 other people in my class if I wanted to. I've created a syntax error, not deliberately, but I just did. And I'm getting frustrated because I'm running my code. I can't find the error, even though it highlighted where the error was and will give me all the usual IDE help that you would come to expect. I'm struggling a little bit. But importantly, as the teacher, you've got a little red dot on your dashboard there to say, Dave's got a syntax error. And now you can watch what I'm doing and you can see how I'm going about bug fixing it. And if you think that I'm struggling a bit with this and I could do with a bit of help, you can dive in and show me what my error is and why I've got an error. So Sasha, do you want to just sort of take control here and correct my code for me?
Yeah, sure thing. So as an instructor, I can do one of two things. I could just highlight here and add a comment and say check your syntax here. And then Dave, as a student, you'd be able to immediately highlight over that and see, okay, the teacher is kind of like pointing me in this direction. And then either of us can just add the parenthesis, and I can run the code for the student as well, because this area is synced up. So actually, like for example, when we're playing the Pong game, that's on both of our screens together. So it's actually like a fully real-time environment there.
This is incredible. It really is.
It is, isn't it? And what's really nice about this Unscripted series is I was honest at the start. I had not actually seen coding rooms much beyond Dave's little recording on Twitter, and just the ideas in my head. You've probably, I don't know how much I should say, you've probably got another customer here. I mean, it is an excellent product, and I had not seen this properly before today. I mean, that so many things. I love the little say you instantly got your classroom list, and you can see that I've run the program 3 times successfully. I clearly know what I'm doing, unlike Dave, who's run it twice successfully and had the syntax error. But I mean, those little features, and then just beyond that, being able to leave a comment to the student or take control and share demo. It's yeah.
But you can also see when I was last active. So if you've got your screen to me, because I'm, you know, a teacher helping somebody else, for example, and I'm not doing my work because I'm a bit disinterested or I'm a bit stuck or whatever reason, I'm not actually engaged, you can see from your dashboard when I last was interacting with my code. So again, you know, there's nowhere to hide as such if you're a student. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Sasha, because I don't know about this, and I might be completely wrong. But can you also not do some kind of go back in time mechanic here, so you can see what I was doing previously, sort of how I got myself into my syntax error? Can you do that?
Yep, sure thing. So I just go to playback. And there's a event history for larger changes, and then I can also go back through and play your edits keystroke by keystroke with timestamps. And this also works if I create multiple files. And so, you know, why don't I do something like this? I can open up the shell. I'm a Vim person, so I can do Vim, you know, maybe foobar.py. I can edit the context and say import main. And write the file. And you guys saw the file list is synced up to what's happening on the server. Then I can edit it here. And it again from the terminal. And then when we go to the playback, if I start from the very beginning, you see there's no foobar.py. And then I can actually go through to these latest changes, and I can see as I was updating it. And that's...
And for those teachers out there that often have difficulty with their you know, technicians and things like that, and they have problems installing things and making sure the latest versions of things are installed and all that hassle, this is perfect, because all you have to do is go to a website. As long as you've got the website unfiltered in your school, then you suddenly have all your IDEs, all your compilers, all your teaching tools, all your assignments, all your feedback, everything is there and visible to students, teachers, everyone. This is going to mean that you don't need the technicians. How great is that?
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, little things were firing off as I was watching that. I mean, you know, other operating systems exist other than Windows, guys, and some of you may be aware of them. But when you were switching to the shell there, typing in commands like vim and cat, reminding me of my Linux and Unix days. Now, trying to get a Unix operating system set up in school in a lab room, I mean, just a nightmare. Technicians typically want quite a lockdown controlled environment. I understand for safeguarding reasons, but what we're seeing here is the ability to safely code in many languages, exposure to different operating system commands, and no installation and configuration hassle for your school. I mean, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely excellent. Are there any other sort of main features here then? Because we've got to be careful of the length of the video, but we don't want to go without you showing, you know, I definitely want to show people this.
Let's have a look at assignments and marking, that kind of thing. That's cool.
Yeah, sure thing. So we actually have, you know, if you get started with coding rooms and you want to create a new course, we have a couple templates and we'll be adding more. And so these both have 100 over 100 different assignments that you can choose from. And this is the example of the Python template. And so you can, and this is a relatively new feature, you can create modules and submodules, because we know it's really important to be able to categorize lessons that you put together for your students. So you can just drag and drop to recategorize assignments and move them around within the units. And I can go into one of them here and show you what that looks like. This problem is auto-graded, and there is a problem statement and everything put together. There's a pre-made template. So when your students start working on this assignment, they'll be able to start with some scaffolded code. And then you can edit this and put in your own notes as well. Some of the problems also have model solutions available. And then you can build out your automated test cases using the test bench.
Can you lock those model solutions so that the students can only see them after a certain amount of time or whatever?
Yeah, they're locked by default.
Actually. Okay.
So sharing the model solution right now is a manual process. You can copy it into another assignment or into a live classroom to share it with your students as well. Just gonna refresh here to grab the test bench. And so, yeah, you can build out these auto-grading test cases, and you can do them using input-output comparison. So just checking that for a given input, the program returns a certain output, and you can also provide feedback for each test case.
Yeah, so let's take a pause just so teachers fully understand what we're showing here. So the idea is that you've got a program that you want the students to write. You've given them a description of the program and any other instructions they need using sort of, rich text format. You've given them some skeleton code so they can not have to start from a blank screen. And then you tell it as part of the assignment what the inputs are going to be, and for those inputs, what the outputs are going to be. So in other words, if you put the number 6 in, you expect to get the number 100 out. And then therefore it can self-mark the piece of code that the student has written, because if they give the input 6 and it gives the output 100, then the algorithm works. Now, whether it's efficient or not, you'd want to go and have a look at the actual code itself, but it is able to provide that basic marking process so that students could, they don't have to wait for you as a teacher to mark their work. They can just get an instant answer. Yes, this algorithm works. It performs how it should. Move on to the next assignment. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can show, I'm not sure if this one has a model solution. Yeah, there is one. So we can actually see what the output is for that. And so students, of course, when they're working on their own, will have this option to run tests. And so we can see the different, it looks like we're not getting an output from the model solution here, but you can see the different inputs and then outputs that are
sure.
blank.
Yeah, and this is how you configure the assignment. So you'd say, these are the inputs. Given these inputs, these are the outputs that we'd expect from those inputs, etc. That's fantastic. And then it can collate automatically. Sorry, Greg. It can collate automatically. I'm just wildly pressing buttons here. It can then collate automatically those into a gradebook. What you call a gradebook, and in the UK we might call a mark book.
Yep, exactly. And so you're, I see right now these are all not started, but if you were to jump in and start one of these assignments, for example, I'd see that you started it, how many submissions you have, and then some statistics for your scores. And then I'm also at the course level. I can also view the Coursewide Gradebook. So for all the different assignments and students, you can easily kind of get an overview of progress for your class per section, and then download that. And if you're teaching multiple sections, you can actually create those sections in coding rooms, and then you only need to manage one copy of the course. And then when you assign out the problems, you can assign them to the different sections with different due dates and separate gradebooks.
So if you're a Craig and Dave member and you've got Craig and Dave's time resources and you really like our differentiated challenges and our sort of try, investigate, make, evaluate process of learning programming through self-study, you can plug those into coding rooms. Now, at the moment, it's quite a manual process. Okay, so what you would have to do at the moment is you'd have to copy and paste all the bits out of our resources, put them into coding rooms. And if you could do that with the skeletal code and the model answers and the descriptions of the tasks and all that sort of thing, and set up your gradebook. But that would be quite a manual process. You'd have to copy and paste. And then you could set up the auto grading if you wanted to by saying, given this algorithm from the Craig and Dave challenges, give it these inputs, these would be the expected outputs. And you can run our model solutions in order to work out what inputs give what outputs. So that's not too tricky. But you would have to set that up yourself. But the two models are perfectly compatible if you want to use Craig and Dave time resources in coding rooms. In the future, it would be nice, and we're not committing to this, either Sasha or Craig and Dave, but it would be nice to have the Craig and Dave time resources as one of those courses that you showed us as a course tile. And so it would be possible to just click on Craig and Dave time, and it would then populate all that stuff automatically for you into coding rooms. I think that would be something that would be really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's maybe something we should discuss a little more, but I think it's a perfect use case. And we're looking at doing that for different curricula as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing that's just really impressed me watching all that is we've managed, I mean, bear in mind, we didn't even demo the product till a good 15 minutes in, and we've only been going for half an hour. We demoed a huge amount of functionality and complexity that underpins it. But I feel I've got a good grip on it in just 15 minutes. Now, that says something about the way the product has been designed. So there's lots of other coding solutions online, and I'm not going to name any now. I've used all sorts of them, but I can honestly say I've not seen one as feature-rich and as involved as the one you've managed to demo in about 15 minutes. And I realised you could probably talk about this for another hour, and there's a lot more to it, but I think this is excellent. I mean, if you're watching this for the first time and learning about the tool with me, I'd be amazed if you didn't go and check it out. So
there is a killer question, though, Craig.
There is a killer question, yeah. And people will shoot us. Well, no, shouldn't say that. People will have a go at us if we don't ask this. So people are going to be asking. So how much does it cost then?
Sure. Yeah. It's actually, we have a free tier now. So you can access every key feature area of coding rooms completely for free, including those 2 template courses that I showed. And then we offer institutional pricing, like school-wide pricing for the premium features. And we have different pricing models for different types of schools and different locations. And you can always reach out to us through our website, or we have a 24/7 live chat. We usually respond in a few minutes, and we'd be happy to set you up with our localized and leveled pricing for schools.
Brilliant. So you can get on board with coding rooms today for free. You can use it as a teacher, use it with students. Now, Sasha, is that time limited? What can I do for free, and why would I want to upgrade? What is the premium features?
Sure thing. So the free tier is not limited by time. So if you sign up, we guarantee that you'll be able to use those free features for life, and there's no time limitations on that. The free tier essentially lets you do everything in coding rooms, but all of the nice to haves are gone. For example, like on the activity monitor, you're only able to see a handful of students. So you won't be able to see the full class and all the data for your entire class. You'll only be able to see data for a couple random students. And we want that, or we designed our free tier like that, so that there would be no school that's unable to have like the ability to run code and work collaboratively due to budget constraints. And then for all of our features that make administration easy, those are premium. For the most part, that's the heuristic that we follow for what's free and what's paid.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, with our own online revision product that we have called Smart Revise, we know that you're never standing still. There's always, this is where we are now, but there's always something you're working on next. So we'd like to finish off really. We appreciate some of this you might not want to share that, but we're getting an opportunity to say, yeah, there are some upcoming features that we'd love to let people know. So, you know, within what you're willing to share, what's the future roadmap then for the product?
Sure. So one of the biggest, this is sort of released, but it's very new. We have Visual Studio Code support in the browser. So are you all familiar with Visual Studio Code?
Yes, what we use, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a fork of Visual Studio Code that runs entirely in the browser. I can debug my Java code here and get code intelligence on different methods. You see we're launching our code here in a second. So all of the professional features that you'd expect from a professional IDE, which like Visual Studio Code, you have available. And you see I've entered the debugger. I can inspect variables. I can look at the call stack. I can step forward through the code and stop. And so the ability to use a professional IDE within coding rooms, we already support Visual Studio Code for all of our key languages. And we're planning on supporting a wider range of IDEs in the browser through coding rooms. And Visual Studio Code is integrated with the rest of the platform. So like if you want to connect with Git for an assignment, your students can open it up in Visual Studio Code, again, through coding rooms, submit everything. You have the playback history, have all of that stuff still, but now you can also use a professional coding environment.
Well, that's just blown my mind right there.
I know I started this stream with this, but I kind of almost got to finish with it. As a programmer, I'm just amazed that you've managed to build all these sort of compilers and you've got the all the IDEs and functionality of the IDEs for all these languages working in a browser. My mind is blown at what you've been able to achieve there. There's always somebody in this industry that can do more than you. And it's incredible to see.
Here's an example.
Yeah. So
no,
thank
really,
you so much for showing us coding rooms. I'm really impressed. Yeah. Every time I see it, I'm just like, I need to be using this.
Yeah. I think we're really blessed to have an awesome team. We're all really excited about building tools for educators, and I think that and having spoken with folks who've used coding rooms for the last 6 months or 8 months, and have really seen a huge step forward in terms of the functionality that we offer. One of the key things that comes up in those conversations is this is sort of continued appreciation that we do get to things that teachers want and ask for on a consistent basis. And so the professional IDs are one big thing. And then also we're planning a lot of great support for group assignments in coding rooms and also learning management system integrations.
Super. Right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Sasha. So just finally then, how can people get a trial? How can they get hold of you? How can they get a demo? What do people need to do next?
So Yeah, our website, codingrooms.com, probably the best place to get started with everything. You can start a free tier account and even start a free trial of the premium, all without talking to us. If you want to reach out to us, we have a little live chat icon on the website. And then we also have an ability to request a quote through those pages. If you want to reach out to me, the best way is Sasha, S-A-S-H-A, at codingrooms.com over email. And yeah, I think that should be enough channels, I hope, to connect with us.
Perfect. Well, look, thank you very much for giving us your time. We appreciate you about sort of 9 hours ahead of us, I think. So thank you very much. And well, we may well hear from you again on a future episode, because for me personally, this has been fascinating and I'm looking forward to exploring it. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Cheers.
Thank you.